This is a crochet tutorial for the Granny Stripes Rainbow Baby Blanket. The link to the free pattern is in the description of this video. I use double knit wool from West Yorkshire spinners called ColourLab, which is 100% natural wool, locally reared, sheared, and spun here in the UK. It comes in all of these beautiful shades, and I use 10, but there's actually a total of 18 solid shades available for this double knit wool. This truly is a project suited for crochet beginners, as we work practically the same crochet stitch in generous chain spaces. Plus, making a baby blanket with beautiful rainbow colors is such a satisfying treat. The main pattern consists of clusters of double crochet stitches worked into chain spaces. You will need the following materials. 2 crochet hooks. The first one that I use is the 4mm hook, also known as size G, and a larger hook of size 5mm or size H. You will also need a pair of scissors and some yarn. The starting edge of the baby blanket consists of 1 row of chains and then a row of single crochet. To prevent any puckering for this edge, we use the larger hook size. I use 5mm crochet hook. We start off with a slip knot. I prefer to make my slip knot as if I am making a magic circle. So we loop the yarn twice around the pointer finger. Insert the hook through both strands, pull through, yarn over, and then pull through for a second time to finish the magic circle. We make chains of multiples of 3 plus 2. For my baby blanket, which is 30 inches wide by 40 inches long, I need 40 clusters of double crochet, which means I need 120 plus 2 chains. For this sample, let's say we need 3 clusters. So we need to chain 9 plus 2, which is 11 chains. So after doing 11 chains, we need to skip 1 chain and work single crochet in every chain until the end. So here's our first single crochet, second single crochet, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and our last one, 10 single crochet stitches. For an in-depth look in any of the crochet stitches in this video, I've included a link in the description. Then we're going to use a smaller size hook, which is the 4mm crochet hook, also known as size H. Then we need to chain 3. One, 2, 3. Turn our work. Look for the first stitch, and then we're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches and then do a double crochet on the 3rd stitch. Yarn over, insert hook on the 3rd stitch right here, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, and then another double crochet on the same stitch, and then a 3rd double crochet in the same stitch. So we have 3 double crochet, which makes the cluster. After this, we're going to skip another 2 stitches and work a cluster in the 3rd stitch. Right here. So we're going to work 3 double crochet in the same stitch. So here's our first, here's our second, and our 3rd double crochet. Okay, and then we skip another 2 stitches and we end up in the last stitch for this row. What we do is we work 2 double crochet in this last stitch, so here's our first one, and then 1 more double crochet in this last stitch. So for this first row of clusters, we have 2 double crochet, which is actually chain 3 and then 1 double crochet. And then we skip 2, and then we have this cluster here, which consists of 3 double crochet, another cluster, and then we end this row by 2 double crochet in the last stitch. Then we make a second row of clusters with the same color yarn. We chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our work. From here on, we actually work our clusters in the spaces of the previous row. Okay, so these spaces here, here, and here. So this really makes this pattern easy to do. We work 3 double crochet in the first space. So we yarn over, insert the hook in the space, yarn over, pull through that space, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on the hook. We do a second double crochet, and our 3rd double crochet in the same space. To make up our first cluster for this row. So we just keep making these clusters of 3 double crochet in each space until we get to the end. So another cluster in this space. So here's our first double crochet. Our second double crochet. And our 3rd double crochet. So this is our second cluster for this row. Okay, so we have this space, we have 1 cluster here, another space, and our cluster. And then we have this last space here, so we make another cluster of double crochet stitch. So first double crochet, second double crochet, and third double crochet. We finish this row by working one final double crochet in the last stitch. So actually this last stitch is the chain 3 start of the previous row. Okay, so just look for the top of that chain 3. It's right here. So just one double crochet. We change colors every 2 rows of clusters. So this is the 2 rows for this pink yarn. This is our second row, consists of 3 clusters, and on each end we have double crochet stitch. Now since we change color every 2 rows of yarn, we need to secure this yarn by making a final chain. And then we cut the chain. Then we change color. So for this sample, I'm going to change from pink to citrus yellow. So the pattern will look almost the same for the yellow compared to that for the pink, with a slight difference because we don't start with a chain nor with a single stitch. But you need to remember every time you need to join your new color yarn that you're joining it through a space and not a stitch. So for example, here I'm inserting my hook in this space. Okay, and also take note where I place my loose yarn. Okay, so just take note of that. And then we're going to join our yarn by slip stitching. And I slip stitch through the space. And then we're going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. So take notice of where I place my loose yarn, both the pink and the yellow. I place it at the top of the previous row, and then we're going to work a double crochet stitch in the same space. And we should end up with what looks like 2 double crochet stitches in the first space. And then for every space along the previous row, we're going to work clusters of 3 double crochet stitches. So this is the first space. We're going to work a complete cluster. So here's our first double crochet. Second double crochet. Third double crochet. And here's our next one. First double crochet. Second double crochet. And third double crochet. And then in our last space, we're actually going to work just 2 double crochet stitches. So here's our first and our second. So this finishes off the first row for the yellow yarn. So we have a small cluster at the start, consists of a chain and double crochet, and then we have 2 complete clusters in the middle, and then the last one is also 2 double crochet stitches. For the second row for this yellow yarn, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to work clusters in every chain space. So here's our first double crochet, second double crochet, and third double crochet. Okay, another cluster. And then we have this last space. So we work another cluster of 3 double crochet stitches. Then we work 1 more double crochet stitch at the end of this row to complete the second row for the yellow yarn. So, which is actually at the top of the chain 3 stitch at the previous row. So just look for the top of the chain 3. Okay, so the rule of thumb is the number of clusters for all the first rows should be the same, and the same thing for the second rows. So for this, let's take a look. We have the pink and the yellow. If you compare the first rows for both colors, they should be the same. So we have 2 double crochet stitches at the start. The same thing for the yellow. And then followed by 2 clusters of double crochet stitches. And then they both end with 2 double crochet stitch. So they should be the same. For the second row, it starts with a chain 3 actually, which looks like a double crochet. And then we have 3 clusters of double crochet, and they both should end with a double crochet stitch. So once you understand how to make 2 rows of these clusters, then you simply repeat this with other colors to make your blanket. So here's the baby blanket I'm currently working on. For this blanket, I started off with chaining 122. I used 10 different shades of the ColourLab range of double knit wool, and I used each color band about 4 times to complete my baby blanket. Remember, I use 1 color for 2 rows of every color change. At this point, I want to change from teal to aqua. So let me just check if I got my colors correct. So if we just look in the previous rows, what colors I've used. Of course, it is totally up to you what yarn and what colors you're going to use to make your own blanket. So we have here, yep, Aqua. So we start off this first row of the Aqua yarn by inserting our hook in the first space and joining this new yarn with the slip stitch and then chaining 3. And then we work a double crochet stitch into that same space. So take note again where I position the loose yarn. So I position these loose yarn at the top of the previous row. The reason why I do this is because I want to work all my stitches around them to hide them. And this is my way of weaving in ends without actually needing to weave in anything. Of course, there are other ways of doing this weaving in ends, and it is completely up to you how you do it. So in every space of the previous row, we work clusters of 3 double crochet stitches. Now you can keep reading the free pattern available for this baby blanket, or one guide that I use is I simply look at the previous row or previous rows to tell me what I need to do. So for example, for this Aqua yarn, I know I'm working on my first row. So all I have to do is look at the first row of the previous color. And it's pretty simple because you're simply doing clusters of 3 double crochet. But I think the critical part of the pattern would be the start and the end of each row. So for the first row, we start off with what looks like 2 double crochet stitches. And then on the second row, they both start and end with single double crochet stitches. So we keep working these clusters until the end of this row. So this is quite significantly a longer piece than our sample piece. So here we've reached the end of the first row for our Aqua yarn. We work 2 double crochet in this last space. If you check the previous color, that's exactly what we did. So here's our first double crochet in that space. And our second and final double crochet in the same space. Then we chain 3 to start our second row for the Aqua yarn. Turn our work. Here's our first space. We work 3 double crochet in this space. So that's our first one, our second double crochet, and our third double crochet. So it really is such a simple pattern for a baby blanket. It doesn't even have to be a baby blanket. It can be anything really. That's why the granny stripes is such a popular pattern in making all sorts of things. So here we can see that we're almost at the end of row 2 for the Aqua yarn. Just working on the second to the last cluster, and here's the last space. We work the last cluster for this row. Okay, so doesn't look quite finished, so that means we need one more stitch, which is a double crochet at the top of this chain 3 stitch of the previous row. So yarn over, insert your hook at the top of that chain 3, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then we secure this yarn by doing a final chain before we cut this particular color. Enjoy making your own baby blanket. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.